Welcome, everybody, to Panfish Nation, along with Mark. I am Lyle. Mark, we got a great guest tonight. I can't wait to get this show started. Um, we have a couple of things we got to do before we bring Jennifer in here, but man, if you guys have ever seen some beautiful painted baits for bass fishing or anything reasonably close to that,
We're talking crazy cool stuff, folks.
oh, you're gonna visit with the lady tonight that does the best I've ever seen. And I can't wait. If there's a link below that tells you where to find her website or YouTube channel. And if you get a chance, go check it out. I promise you'll be impressed. She does some awesome work. So, Jennifer, hold on just a second. Mark and I are going to go through the people in chat and welcome them into the show.
What's going on, everybody? I want to start off by wishing everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend. I also remind you that it's amateur out there on the water. Keep that in mind because the madness starts this weekend.
Speaking of amateur, was it not Chad and Freddie?
Let's wait till he gets in here.
Okay.
All right. Let me say hello to some people in chat. What's going on, 922 Crappie Barbecue? How you doing? Big Wrench Catfishing in the house. Bug, what's up, Bugman22? How you doing? Channel supporter Crappie Day Fish On. What's up, buddy? How are you? There's my brother in Flatheads. You know, Jeremy's starting to really like those flathead catfish. I think he might even turn over to the brown side if you know what I'm talking
about. I do.
Creole Catfishing. What's going on, Jeremy? Nina's Kayak Crew. How you doing, sweetheart? Nubby's Catfishing. What's up, Nubs? There's Troy over at Real and Virtual Outdoors. Not just Mr. The great Tim Molina. What's going on, Tim? How you doing? Mr. Chucky's around. If he's in here, you know, Miss Annette's nearby or on her way in. And Big Wrench Catfishing. What's going on, people? I think people are taking their time coming over here from Chad's show, but they'll come in here. They always do. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, folks. We'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. If you haven't considered subscribing, we'd love to have you as a subscriber, or you can join the channel if you like. All the links are down below. So we'll wait on Chad for a little bit, and we'll bring Miss Jennifer in. Jennifer, we're so happy that you agreed to do a show on Panfish Nation. I told you earlier that when I first found your stuff, I couldn't stop watching that. I binge watched a bunch of your videos. I was so impressed with the quality of paint that you put on them and the way you make them look, and the eyes make things look like they're real. And that's what catches fish. How did you learn how to do this?
Wow. First of all, thanks for the flattering statement. I really appreciate that. That's humbling to hear you guys say that because you've been a long time in the industry and you've had the podcast for a while, especially with Catfish Nation. Mm-hmm. I'm self-taught, not completely as an artist. I've always done watercolors and painted on canvas and since I was a little girl, but I decided to basically quit working for anybody else. And I wanted to bring two things that I love more than anything in the world together, which was art and fishing. I've fished since I was old enough to remember, and something captivating. And it's probably the only two things in the world that keep me calm are fishing and the art. So I finally decided that I was going to cash in my 401k and take a bet on me. So I taught myself airbrush.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, they're beautiful baits, and I know you sell the world out of them things all over the place. Do people ever send you pictures of what they caught on your baits? I mean, when I sell jigs to people or send them to, and they send me pictures of what they catch on them, or even the rods I build.
Sure.
I had a guy send me a picture of a 105-pound fish that they caught on a catfish they caught on a bumping rod in a tournament. Yeah. Nonetheless. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I built that rod. That's amazing. And it blows me away. So do they do that with you also?
Yeah, you know, more these days than when I first started out. Obviously, when I first started out, I didn't know what I was doing and I was self-teaching. So as I learned, I decided that it would be probably a good idea if I brought people along because I was trying to figure out what I was doing. But these days, now that I'm with Bullshad and I collab at Catchco, I get pictures a lot. And it's it's still a wow thing for me. It's like it's almost unreal that people and stuff on things that I've painted. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty neat experience.
Yes, it is. The other thing is, how long have you been doing this?
About 8.5 years now.
8.5
So,
years.
yep. Before I was doing what I'm doing now as the owner of Jekyll Bait Company, I worked at Walmart as an asset protection person. I started out as an associate and then worked my way into management. And I just got to a point where I was really tired of getting my butt kicked over packs of cigarettes and crazy stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Really need to take a chance on myself.
I have one question about Walmart.
Sure.
Is being a greeter at the door, is that really the ultimate job?
I think it is. It is, because you get to smile if you want to. You don't have to do a whole lot. You just need to talk to people on their way in and their way out.
You know, we're trying to take up a collection to get Lyle his very own Walmart greeter vest
Okay.
because he is such a fan of
I could
Walmart.
airbrush your name on it. I
There
think we
we
could
see.
do that.
We need to talk, Jennifer, because I need to have him lose a bet where he has to wear a Walmart vest during a live stream.
We could make that happen.
We'll just
All
have
right.
to have a fishing competition. You'll have to win, though. Oh, man.
There's Mike Greenwell or Greenwell.
Hey,
How
Greenwell.
you doing?
What's going
There's
on?
P&B Catfishing Paul Boyd. What's going on? How are you doing? Miss Annette, I told you she was coming. There we go.
That's right. Mark, have you got any questions for Jennifer?
You know what? I don't have an artistic bone in my body. I wouldn't even know how to start to develop that. I'm lucky if I can come up with a thumbnail here every now and then. I got to
Well,
roll
that's
through
not
it.
necessarily true. You make your own jigs.
I do a little bit, but they pass. That's about it. I'm looking at some of these photos of your baits as I'm talking to you, and I'm just like in awe. And you
Wow.
said you got a deal. What kind of deal do you have going with Ketchko? You had mentioned them.
So with Ketchko, let me back up just a few steps. So it's been a long process. About 3.5, 4 years into airbrushing and working at Jekyll Baits, I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is why you guys fascinate me, because Lyle is in Missouri, right? You're around Springfield. And
Yeah.
then Mark, you're
I'm outside. I'm north of Chicago.
Okay. So you're in Ketchko territory is what we would call that. Gentleman by the name of Mike Buca at Bullshad Swim Baits, who is the founder and owner. He's been doing that about 15 years, had just come out with the baby bullshad, which is the smaller version and the ABS plastic version of his resin swim baits. So that is a Ketchko Mike Buca bullshad.
Oh, you froze up, Jennifer. Let's see if you come back.
These guys
just kind of went through the motions of, I wanted to paint them. They were really cool baits. I was fishing them.
Uh-huh.
So I knew they were catching fish, so I was already painting. What I didn't realize is that Mike was looking at the things that I was submitting to Instagram. I have an Instagram page as well, and he sent them to it's a Kona dog. Hey, we have hi. It's a dachshund.
I think Lyle wants you to paint that cone for that dog.
I might. I could do a crappie or bluegill, whatever you guys want.
Put like some big shark teeth on there for that puppy.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think that'd be fun. So
we didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. The cone head works. It works for the show. Long story short, Mike Buca submitted my stuff to Ross Gordon, who is the owner, founder of Ketchko, and they liked what they saw. And I got a couple of phone calls, and then a couple years into that, I got a 4-pattern deal with them on my own line of baby bullshads and baby bullgills. And we've struck up a relationship, and it's been wonderful. And I will say this much: being in the industry for 8.5 years and going to ICAST and going to Bassmaster Classics, we do about 9 shows a year with bullshad. They are probably one of the most genuine companies towards small business that I've ever had the privilege to work with in my life. And that's really saying something, because there's a lot of companies that you're a statistic and you're a number and how much can you sell and what's the volume. And they take a little bit of extra time. And that's not just because I'm with them as a collaborator. I wouldn't be there if I didn't feel that way.
Very
If
nice.
that makes any sense at all.
It makes a lot of sense, absolutely. In this day and age, with social media and everything's going on, there's this trend where there's a lot of people that kind of I don't know how to say this nicely, that don't. We won't say it. How about that?
You know what? I'm prior military, so you can let it fly if you
I'm
normally
saying
do on
there's
the
a lot of
channel.
people that are kind of they're playing the role without living the lifestyle, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how to do that, and I happen to know that you definitely do. So it's good to see people like you get the attention that you deserved, and to land a deal with like Ketchco or something like that, whatever it is. It's definitely a feather in your cap. So congratulations. I think that's really impressive.
Thank you. And I want to add one little thing onto that, because I noticed that a lot of people really have the drive to get into that aspect of the industry if that's what they want to do. But one thing that a lot of people fall short on, and if you're out there and you're an airbrush artist and you happen to be watching this, you have to give what you get. So you can't expect a company, no matter how big they are, to always just push your stuff and push your stuff. You have to be doing that at the same time, and you have to continually do that every single day, or it just doesn't work. So you have to give it back.
And that's not the first time I've heard that advice. I have friends that have some really high level sponsorships, not pro staff, but sponsorships from companies like Daiwa, Mercury, Illumicraft, stuff like that. And they went years of giving before they got anything back. So give until it hurts, become a part of the scene, become part of the industry, and good things will happen from there. I've had a couple of things come across my doorstep without talking because of NDAs and stuff.
Of course.
And you understand that, and that's basically how you go about getting them. So if you're looking to be a player in the game, folks, that's the way to do it. Just go out there, fish, do the best you can, tote the products that you love, show them how they're used, and give back to the industry if you can.
And don't ask for something before you've actually been able to prove yourself.
Exactly.
A lot of people come and they have their hands out and they've just started. Just keep working, and you're going to get turned. I've been turned down way more times than you get that yes, but you have to keep going.
You got to offer something, most definitely, and that's after you've given plenty. So
sure.
Right. We have a question in chat for you, Jennifer, but before we do that, I want to touch on something that's pretty dear to me. Your former military, and thank you so much for your service.
You're welcome.
I see guys in restaurants and walking down the street, and every time I do, and they're wearing a veteran's cap or something, I visit with them and shake their hand and thank them for doing that. My emotions with that tear me up a little bit. We used to go up and fish the Fishing for Freedom tournament every year in Quincy, Illinois, and one year I was asked to do the missing man table announcement, and I cried like a little baby through the whole thing. I made it, but it was tough, and
it's tough.
Yeah, that stuff is so important to me. And anytime we have a guest on here, we want to recognize them, because what you have done for the rest of us, there's no way we can repay you for what you've done. So
thank you. And going into Memorial Day weekend, my grandfather was also service, and he was still in the service when he passed, and he passed on a plane back from Brazil, and he's in Arlington. But I know most of the time, and just for folks that are not military and they don't understand, Memorial Day weekend is a little bit different than Veterans Day. Memorial Day obviously signifies those that had passed, those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for their service. So I really, really appreciate you guys as much as you guys are saying you appreciate me. So thank you so much.
I feel like that I can extend that to the families of those people that because they give a lot too.
Yeah.
I know that the guys that didn't make it home give everything, but their families will have given so much, and it just means a lot to a lot of us. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So there was a question from was it Tim?
Yeah.
You guys had a cute. Okay. There's going to be, this is maybe a 3-part answer. The question is, do I make everything myself or do I have help? I paint I'm not a builder. So when it comes to swim baits, if that's the ask, then no, I don't build. But Bullshad Swim Baits does make every single bait in the shop that I have a studio in. So if we're looking at present time, as far as the ABS plastic stuff, that because I still do repaints, I still paint things like Strike King and Rapala, or if you're in a different section of the country, it's Rapala. However you want to say it, I've heard it said two ways. So
Rapala.
Rapala, yep. Um, I strictly paint, and I do paint every single bait that you see on the YouTube videos, on my Instagram, on the website, all by myself. I would love to have an intern. I would love to eventually have somebody that works for me, but I'm not quite there yet. So
Finding somebody like that is really hard, and I'll let me tell you why I say that. I've built fishing rods since 1984, custom rod,
okay,
and I've tried to get all three of my kids to help me, and they won't.
yeah,
I've tried to get some of my grandsons to do that, and I have limited success with that. I've tried to get my wife to do it, and they all tell me the same thing. We can't do it to suit you, so we're not going to listen to it because it
understood.
will never please you. And that's the
I
hard
can't
part
see
about
why they would think that, Lyle.
that's the hard part about finding an apprentice, because now I've probably got more patience with the grandsons than,
Yeah,
and my granddaughter. She's not old enough yet, but with the grandson, I have one that comes over and he does, but he's a little bit laid back. He would rather watch me do it, but at some point, I think that he'll get into it. But finding someone that'll actually do what you want them to do, like you want them to do it, is kind of tough.
it is tough. And if you're a builder, which you are, you build rods, then you have that type A personality, and it's not always. You have a standard, and you got to the point where you're at in your career because you set that standard for yourself.
Hmm.
And unfortunately that spills into everyday life,
That's
every
right.
once in a while, and it's tough. The biggest thing that I would look for is somebody that already has experience, that has absolutely no desire to start their own company, because if they do, then I would push them in that direction,
That's right.
because they're going to want to do it for them more than they're going to want to do it for you.
Yep.
So I completely agree with the fact that it's not easy to find good help. And if you do, generally they have the same personality that you do,
Yep.
and it's going to be for them, which is good, but they won't last long with you.
Right. One of the things that we was in business for years and years and years in the automotive industry, and I trained enough people I could have owned a dealership. I had guys I trained for heating and air conditioning work, and for motor work, and for transmission work, and this and that. When I grew up, you done it all, or you didn't have a job.
Right.
But as we was in business, people wanted to specialize in what they did, so they didn't have to learn everything. So we just taught them everything. And about the time you get them to the point where you could just say, "Okay, I'm going to turn you loose now. Show me what you can do," somebody'd offer them more money, and they was gone. And it happened all the time, And I just got to the point where I had one kid that worked for me for 11 years. He was the longest
There we go. I'm back.
paid employee that we ever had. I thought the world of him, and he done everything just like I wanted to. We'd argue a little bit once in a while, but my motto was, "It's my way or the highway," and he understood that, because it worked. What we done worked, and
Yeah.
if it didn't work, then I would listen. Or if he had a better, I'd listen to his ideas
Yeah.
if he had something to tell me. But most of the time, I just tell him, we know this works. That's unproven, so
Sure.
we're going to do it this way, and he understood.
And it's tough to find somebody like that. It really is.
It really is. Yeah. And when we sold out, I found him a good job, and made sure that he was well taken care of.
That's awesome.
Yep. That's the way you do good people.
So Jennifer, where can we buy some of your baits?
So I have a website, www.jekyllbaits.com. And it's if you go to the YouTube channel, there's a lot of links there. You can also find me at Instagram. I have the link tree, which has got all of the social platforms that I work within. Um, every once in a while, they'll do a drop of custom baits for bullshad.com, which is the swim bait realm that I work in. And bullshad.com has a newsletter that you can sign up for, and you can be the first to find out when they have their drops, which is super cool because there's a lot of neat stuff going on with bullshad right now. But that's probably a whole different show, whole different conversation. So
Maybe
it's a
we
pretty
need to do
exciting
another
thing.
one.
Yeah. See if we can get Mike in here. But yeah, jekyllbaits.com is the best place to get it. And I've had to switch because my life has gotten insanely busy with the collabs and different things that I'm doing. I've switched from a pre-order, which basically it's a spray to order type deal, over to a drop only because I get so backlogged with orders with customers that I don't want them waiting. I've already got customers that have been waiting 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 months, and it's agonizing for them and for me because I want to turn over a product to them as fast as I can, but I have contract obligations to 2 entities right now that I have to have done within a certain period of time, especially when it's show season. Shows being the expos that you guys probably attend yourselves. So,
I heard you said at the beginning of the show that you go to the big show down in Florida every
oh
year.
yeah, yeah. This will be my 3rd year
I've
in the
had
industry.
people try to get me to do that for years and years and years, but we fished a lot of tournaments for a lot of years, and it always seemed that show was on a tournament a time. And I, not that I wanted to go down and display stuff because I had more to do than I wanted to do. What I would like to have done was just went down there to look around, and I'm not
Sure,
sure that's possible. But my gosh, everybody that's anything in the fishing industry is there.
is there. And the thing that a lot of consumers don't recognize with iCast is that it's pretty much a business to business networking event.
Right.
You can't purchase anything there. They unveil all the new products, all the the stuff that's coming out in the next year. You'll see pop up like on the Tackle Warehouse websites and things like that.
Mhm.
But it's a fantastic place, especially if you're newer in the industry or you haven't been to one, to just meet people, to
Yep.
just figure out, is there a connection I can make? Because with rods, you're probably looking for where can I get the best guides and where can I get the best prices on blanks. And I'm not sure. I don't know your
Yeah. What
business. So
I'm looking at is the best pricing on what I'm
yeah,
using.
sure. All of us do, me for paint and different things like
Right.
that. So it's very beneficial, at least to go to once or twice.
Yeah, I'd love to go down there and do that sometime.
I
And
would
maybe,
like to do that too. Maybe we need to make a trip down there, Lyle. That would be
There
maybe
you
fun.
so.
go.
Yeah.
That would be a good
We
time. It
need
doesn't hurt to network with bigwigs in the industry too, especially you get to see all the new products and such. I know that I watch a lot of the videos that come out of there every single year,
Oh
and it
gosh, yeah,
every year it amazes me the stuff that they're coming out with.
there's a
it
lot of
does.
guys that go down there and do live feeds out of
Hmm.
it. It's a big deal. So
It
yeah,
is a big deal,
iCast is a huge deal.
and it's sort of geared toward bass fishing, but there are other aspects. There's saltwater fishing. There's people from overseas. It was really weird during COVID because you didn't have any of the entities from overseas because Japan has a very big showing
Yeah.
usually because of all the baits that they produce and bring over.
Oh man,
Um,
they're huge.
yeah,
We
Is there
we, we
people from China over there too?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
for sure.
It's mostly American driven, but there's a lot of international entities there.
Okay.
You had mentioned, a lot of the companies come over from Japan, and we have a bait shop here since I live in such a bigger city called Anglers International, and they got all the Japanese stuff, and that's
Sure.
some of that stuff is so cool too.
Oh, it's
It's
amazing. Some of the detail that they put into their baits and their
Mhm.
just the way they build things.
It's like, here, take my money every time I go in there. I can't go in there with Lyle; he'll be spending all my money.
Yeah, right there.
Tim Molina's got a question for you. He says, "Do you do repaints
I
like an
do.
old Hinkle shad?"
I do repaints. The biggest thing that's probably an obstacle for a lot of consumers, customers, clients is the turnaround time. From any given day throughout the entire year, my turnaround time sits between 6 weeks and 4 months. It's busier in the winter because we're gearing up for the expo shows. This is probably the best time of year. And right now, I'm trying to get through the orders that I've had. So we're looking at probably 2 months out. If you're interested in repaint, just leave a comment with a way to get a hold of you either on their website or their Panfish Nation here on YouTube, or come see me at Jekyll Productions.
Yeah. If you can't get any other way, Tim, just send me a message and I will forward it to Jennifer and she can get in touch with you from there on.
Yeah, thanks for the questions too, Tim. Appreciate it.
So now this is a question that I'm dying to ask here. This is from
Okay.
me. When somebody buys like a real high dollar custom bait, are
Sure.
they actually putting that on a line and throwing it out into the water?
That's a great question. So there are collectors out there. I prefer you fish it because I've spent the time, and you guys, if you've been watching anything that I've been doing lately, I'm fly fishing to catch bluegill, and since we're on Panfish Nation, so that I can match forage patterns better. One of the things that Mike Buca has stressed, he'll take me to every tackle shop in the world that sells live bait, and we take pictures of them. So yes, people collect them, but most of the folks, if you look, as Bullshot is a great one on Instagram to see it, they are fishing with the baits that we're painting. They're honest to God fishing with it, and we have some huge catches too. It's super cool to see.
Well, I think going out fishing, and if I'm not mistaken, you was out today.
So I posted today, but that was from a couple of days ago. Today was a filming day for me, and tomorrow will be too. Working with, I've got a side hustle because I do a lot of editing and producing because I have clearly too much time on my hands.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say you got all that spare time. Why
All that
not?
spare time. But I'm working with a friend of mine in the North Georgia mountains who works with on the fly excursions, and we're doing some filming this weekend with some of
Well,
his clients, which is super cool.
if you are spending your time out catching bluegill so you can make your baits look like a bluegill,
Hmm.
you're doing it correct because that's
Thank
the
you. I hope
only
so.
way that's the only way you can get a true representation of a fish is to have a perfect picture of that fish. And you might have to take what 100 pictures of bluegills before you get the one that you want it to look like.
I definitely have taken hundreds of pictures. Yes. Something else that people forget is that when you put a hook fish and you pull it out of the water, that fish is stressed and the color fades just like that.
Right.
So you have to make sure that the fish is as accommodated as you can. If you're going to photograph it, sometimes I'll take a little tiny aquarium out with me. Sometimes I'll just leave it in the net and let it de-stress for a little bit before I photograph it. So there's a lot of different things that go into that.
Yeah. I'm on board with all that. And one of the things that impressed me the most, and if you've ever had a deer that you shot and had a taxidermy dermis mounted,
Sure,
if the eyes don't look correct, the mount is no good.
it's no good.
And it's no different with the baits that you're making, and yours look awesome. So uh,
So
I know
there's
that's really hard to get the eyes on anything to look correct, but I think you do a really bang up job on that.
So the eyes, I can't take credit for that because I do purchase custom eyes. For the crankbaits, I use Dead Meat Customs and I use Jetson lure eyes. They're both in the United States. They both produce in the United States, and I'm super happy with their work. They're fantastic. If you've ever watched Marling Baits or Nate Marling build the wooden baits, probably both of you guys have. He
Yep.
uses dead meat as well. Matt is a fantastic guy, and he's super great to work with. He's got a long turnaround time too because he's bombarded with people wanting his
I'm sure
eyes.
you're right.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember when he first started, he was like begging for people to buy his stuff on eBay, and
and
now
now he's
he's
like,
like,
please stop
"Yes,
ordering me.
Now, when you
Yeah,
install these, I don't want you to tell all your
no,
secrets
it's
of how you do things, but are they what do you call this stuff that you put on that I use?
UV resin."
UV resin. Do you do UV resin over the eyes?
I am not using UV resin over the eyes currently. I've
Okay.
used it in the past, and depending on what the project is, I'm either dipping the bait in clear coat, which can be a UV,
Hmm.
like KBS is a great one step. Just dip it and you're done. Takes
Right.
a little bit longer. Or if it's a swim bait and it's jointed and it's got pins and hinges and eyelets,
Right.
then I'm spraying and I'm doing a very high end auto epoxy, auto clear coat 2K. And we have a huge room. Um, it's big. It's just like if you were putting an automotive, clear coat on there and the whole room and vented and
Right.
Now, what if somebody wanted you to come and airbrush their boat for them?
that would be interesting. I would have to figure out a way to get my airbrush and compressor there. Um, Probably be
I
easier.
might bring my boat to you, but
I was going to say,
I have
come to
an
North
airbrush.
Georgia. We'll go fishing. I've got some cool spots.
I have an airbrush and a compressor.
There you go.
I don't trust you, Lyle.
Oh, come
Yeah,
on. He fly ties.
I can't use it like she does. I promise you, man. The reason why I ask about the UV resin is because I don't do a lot of eye work on the jigs that I build. But if I
Okay.
do put eyes on them, I put that over them, and it gives such a protective coat.
It does.
And I know there's other things, but on hand tied jigs, that seems to work the very best for me.
Jigs are a little bit different than ABS plastic or swim baits. And you are beating the heck out of those jigs on the bottom
Mhm.
constantly.
Right.
Not quite all the time, unless you're doing like crankbaits with bills that are hitting the bottom. But 2K auto clear is pretty good, and it depends. There's so much different stuff out there. There's BSI. There's 2-part epoxies.
And more
That's
stuff coming all the time.
all the time.
Yep. There's a great question, Jennifer.
Okay.
Cold Creek Catfishing, also known as Billy, says, I have 20 to 30 very old wooden baits. Are they worth getting priced?
Yes. There's a couple of collectors books out there, and if you can, I've got some books back at the shop. Obviously, I'm on the patio in my backyard tonight, which is it's a pretty zen spot for me. So I don't have the books with me, but there's collectors guides out there, and there's a lot of places that you can go to, even on Facebook, that will help you price those things out. Sometimes they're not worth much. Sometimes you don't know what you have, and all of a sudden you've got this old heading from like the '60s that might have been a rare bait or collector's bait. So sure.
I've got some baits that I've collected through the years and stuff, and some old reels and stuff, and they're probably not worth much. I don't even look them up because they're worth the world to me. I've gotten them from such a person. They've given to me they came out of my grandfather's tackle box.
Yeah.
This one I found the day I caught X fish on the bankers, stuff like that. So it all depends. I mean, if you're out there to do the wheel and deal, go out to garage sales. I know people who do that. They go out to they go out to what is it called? Pawn shops. They buy whole tackle boxes and do stuff like that. You can really turn it into fun if that's what you're looking to do. So
you sure can.
Can I tell you a story?
Of course.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I mowed 38 yards a summer. When my dad would take off and go to work in the morning, I would leave pushing a lawnmower, and I would get home about the same time he did every night. That's what you done. I was 12, 13 years old, and I used to mow a yard for a guy. His name was Mr. Mickey, and Mr. Mickey was a huge fisherman in our area at that time, and my brother mowed his yards. Was 9 years older than me. He mowed his yards before I did. And when he decided that he was done, he retired. He gave me tackle box after tackle box full of stuff. This was back in the 1960s, and he gave me a bunch of old stuff that he had. If I'd have kept that instead of using that, because I used it, I wanted to catch fish, he gave me all kinds of stuff, and I would give anything to have all that back now, because some of that stuff was made in the 50s or maybe earlier than that. But it worked, and it caught fish. And
you bet it
I
did.
couldn't figure it out. How do you do this? I'm not catching fish. Well, you're doing it wrong. And he explained it to me.
Yep.
He was such a great old guy, and I would give anything to have a bunch of that stuff back now.
I tell you what, it's no different with some of the baseball cards that used to be out. My mom used to say, "Oh, we'd put them between our spokes." Me and my brothers would just. She had a Hank Aaron Milwaukee Braves card. Oh, and she had no idea. She had no idea. I'm like, what? So that's
crazy.
You never know what you've got.
Yeah.
There you go, Cold Creek Catfishing. Okay, I can see them now. They just started popping up.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
There we go. Good evening, Brenda. How you doing, dear?
There's 2 stands in here. We've had a bunch of people added. They come and go as we do the show, but You didn't happen to bring any of your stuff that you could show us tonight, did you?
I did not. This again, poor planning on my part. I
No.
expected to be down at the shop in Ackworth, but I ended up having to be here because I've got a really early start time, about 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it's
Wow.
about an hour north from here. Ackworth, in Georgia, is about an hour south of me, and the job that I've got for filming is about an hour north. So this made sense to be home.
I was not aware that your
Hey, there it is.
that
Let me
you
There's
see
me.
had
if
a
I can, let me
shop.
see if I can get them zoomed in here a little bit.
I didn't realize that you had a shop outside of your house that you done this.
So I used to. I used to have. It was a huge garage in Jonesboro, Arkansas, when I lived there. I actually moved. Mike had me move from there to here so that I could work with him closely, which was an awesome opportunity. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but I used to work out of my garage, and it was a great place to be. The shop that I have here is unfortunately about an hour south, so it's almost 100 miles a day that I'm putting on
Oh
the Jeep.
wow.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
And how big is this? How many do
So
you
the
have paint rooms and different rooms for different things in this?
we do. There's an upstairs and a downstairs at Bullshed at the shop in Ackworth. We have a clear coat room. We have a paint room, which is where I work. A storefront, which is really cool. It's not open right now because we were so wiped out after the Bassmaster Classic in Knoxville that
Oh,
we're
but
still, we're still trying to catch up and get production because again, everything that's produced is right there in that. There's assembly, there's production, there because everything's made. So I'm not sure the square footage. We have a 2,200 gallon test tank that we can actually test the baits there.
wow,
It's neat, because Mike started
That's
in his
cool.
garage in his basement and has grown to worldwide distribution.
man,
Some of these catfish people that come into here, they might want you to paint them a bait with like that looks like a chicken. Do you think you could do that for them?
that,
That's an inside
and
joke between me and Lyle. They all love using chicken for bait, so they might as well have a bait that looks
I,
like chicken.
you got to use bait that's in your waters. I never see a chicken swimming in my water.
I lost.
Oh, she froze up. That's okay. We'll hold on until she gets back.
Hello, Jerry Parker.
What's going on, Jerry? I love that stuff. Jerry, I'm going to put the link to jekyllbaits.com if you're interested in those. Also, the link to Jennifer's YouTube page is in the description. Jekyll Productions here on YouTube. Really good stuff, high end stuff, but it's really cool to watch her create
You
and see
need to
some
go
of her
watch
videos.
some of the videos. She
Make sure you
narrates it while she does it, and it's so interesting. And the end result is just simply amazing.
Thank you guys so much. I'm kind of losing you here and there in the feed. Do you? Can you got? Okay, you can
We
see me.
have you now, but
Okay,
you go in and out sometimes. But we're doing good.
okay. Sorry about that.
That's
That's
okay. Lyle's a professional. I just follow his lead, so we let him take over when that happens. It does happen from
Awesome.
time to time. So
we
So
Mark and I try
I'm
not to.
surrounded by cattle and pine trees, and I've got thanks to Elon Musk, I've got Starlink satellite, which is how I'm talking to you guys here tonight.
oh,
So
really?
yeah,
That's cool.
Nice,
it's
nice.
awesome.
We're just thrilled to have you on here and talk about your baits and stuff. And um, I
I'm here. I'm scrolling through your website and your YouTube page, and I'm like a dog that sees a squirrel. I quit paying attention once I see some of your work. So I
Uh,
had to minimize that stuff.
Very humbling. Thank you.
I'm just blown away with the way that you can paint this stuff and narrate it to people while you're doing it to where they can understand what you're doing. Because so many people can't do that. They'll say things that people don't understand and don't clarify things, and you're above what their understanding level is. And it's really important that the way you do it, that people understand everything you say, not so they can do it, just so they know how much work you put into it.
I've always wanted to pay it forward. So when I started to figure out how to do things a little bit better, I had mentors as well. I've had people that have been really good in the industry, from Mike Russell to Mike Ornstein. There's a few painters out there that are fantastic that I've been able to kind of shadow and work with. it made sense because they had the same philosophy that community is better than competition, because it takes all of us to be able to make a dent in the industry. So I wanted to give back to the people that were watching me. I wanted to teach them, and they were,
That's awesome.
yeah. I had a little girl that came up to me in Knoxville. She's 13 years old, and she handed me 4 baits that she'd been watching my video and had painted for me, and they were fantastic. I've got one tied on right now that I'm insisting I've got to catch fish with that thing. So
That stuff is so important. I have a crayon colored page that a little girl colored for me, and we was at a fishing tournament. I'm pretty sure it was in Owensboro, Kentucky.
okay,
And we were outside at the boat shooting the breeze with a bunch of people at 11 o'clock at night. And
yeah,
this guy and his wife and his little girl, and she come walking up to me with this hand colored image.
yeah,
And I don't know what it was. I still don't know what it was.
but it meant a lot to her.
It meant a lot to me. And
Yes,
she give me that,
there.
and we brought it home, and Cindy put it between 2 pieces of plastic. I don't know what you call that, and saved it. And I used to do the show out in the garage, and it was on a shelf out there where people could see it, and it's still on that shelf today.
That's awesome.
You
I'd
know,
love to see it. So some of the next broadcasts, the streams that you guys do, bring it. I'll watch.
I may just
Yeah,
bring it in here because I haven't had now. I still follow this little girl and her mother. Of course, now instead of being 4 or 5 years old, she's 8 or 10, 11 years old, and she plays baseball, and she's a home run hitter and a pitcher.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Well,
it
see,
is.
those are better rewards to me than somebody purchasing a bait. When you have a little one,
Yeah,
or somebody, I work with veterans as well, and some of these guys that are like, man, I haven't been able to walk in a couple of years, but this is a hobby that I can actually do. I can sit down at a desk and paint a bait, and
yeah.
that's the reward. That's what I do this for.
So,
That's the
Lyle,
full
we need to get your credit card after the show and order you some airbrush equipment. Get you started, buddy.
That's
So
it.
I've got enough hobbies. Thank you. Uh, how long does it take you to do one start to finish?
A lot less time than it used to. So when I first started, I probably could get to 3, maybe in a day, because I had no idea what I was doing. Now that I'm with Bullshad 8.5 years later, I've done 150 in one day, but it has
Oh
to be
Wow.
wow!
the same pattern. So I can do a run of baits. I almost have an assembly line set up where I'm just doing one color at a time. And I teach on YouTube, so it's not really a secret. I'm not giving away anything, but you just do one after the other, and you do one color and one thing. And then if
Do
you're
you
doing a
number each
stencil,
one?
mm-mm,
You
no,
don't?
no, I'll sign everything. I'll do a little sign, a signature on the bottom, but that's about
Do
it.
you hand do that?
hmm Yep, I write with an acrylic pen on every single
I've
one.
got guys that want me to hand sign on rods that I build. And if
Yeah,
you have ever tried to write on a round,
on a round.
oh my God, it's nearly impossible. And my
Yeah.
handwriting's not that great to start with. And when you try to do it on there, but I found a different way to do it that seems to work out. But yeah, it's hard to do that on a round fishing rod. Hey Stan, glad to see you in here tonight.
Hey, do you do anything digitally? Do you use a computer as far as your designs? Use any programs like that to help you figure this stuff out?
The closest to digital I am using right now is a Cricut machine, which I can
Okay.
make a few stencils. I used to hand cut with an X-Acto knife when I started,
Right.
and I like doing my own stencils because it wasn't cookie cutter, it wasn't anything that you could find anywhere else. But now I can take the fish that I've caught and put it on a simple, like a black and white pixel, and I can get different pieces of that. If that
Hmm.
hope you can follow me there. So I can still do my own stencils. It's just a little bit easier because the machine's cutting it and not the X-Acto knife.
Right. I've seen some back in my motorcycle days, a lot of custom painters that did motorcycle work. They use some of the weirdest things for stencils, like lace or pantyhose or something.
Oh yeah,
You ever use
100%.
any of that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've used my grandmother's lace. I haven't used pantyhose, but I've used dryer sheets. Dryer sheets are a weird
Oh, yeah.
one. I've taken a holly leaf off of a tree to get like a crawfish type of a, underbelly.
Uh-huh.
So there's all kinds of stuff. I've got a couple of videos on the channel that show some weird hacks for different things. Fishing line, you can wrap around loosely and spray over it, and you have almost like a bowfin type image.
Let me ask you this now. What are your favorite colors to use on bait that you actually fish with?
Bluegill stuff and trout. So
Bluegill and trout?
the love of my life for trout. I love fishing for trout. I love bass too. Don't get me wrong, but something about the dots and the colors on different trout, especially like the brook trouts that we have here in the Appalachian
Uh-huh.
Mountains, unbelievable colors.
Yeah, Appalachia Mountains. I thought that you was out east of us.
Yep.
Um, do
I'm
you
about an hour. I'm an hour from the southern entrance to the Appalachian Trail.
Very nice. So you got plenty of great water to fish for trout.
Yes, sir, I do. I love it.
That's amazing. Now, see, in the panfish industry, I know that Mark he likes his crappie.
Me too.
Bluegill are my favorite for a couple of reasons. One reason is usually you can get into them pretty quick, and
Yeah.
the other reason is they're damn good eating.
Oh, they're real good eating. So it's crappie.
Yeah,
I call them crappie, but a lot of people call them crappie. When I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, everybody called them crappie, and in the
right.
South they call them crappie. But up north, and I grew up in Maryland, so that was crappie up there. But I paint a mean nose too.
I know that you do a lot of bluegill painting, and they look amazing. Um, do you do anything for smaller fish than bass?
I do.
Okay.
Um, I do the little like the miniature lures.
The mini cranks?
Yep, I do mini cranks, mini lipless baits. About the smallest I've gotten would be about the wee rebel size, like the little
Mhm.
grasshoppers, and I do.
I just actually took some of those off my desk and put them where they belong. So I'm sorry I did that. I could have shown everybody.
I'm gonna have to get with you on some of those. I gotta have some.
You actually talked me into buying a couple of them, Lyle. So don't even start.
We get Mark's credit card out. And we have a friend of mine, James Dockery. Him and I help Mark buy stuff to make sure he always has enough.
We'll be talking here on a video chat or something. They're like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Looking at baits," and they'll be like, "Okay, let us see." And I end up with every color that's available. When I'm looking at your site, they're not coming on. I'm sorry, Jennifer. I just can't afford every one of your baits at one the same time.
I promise you.
One, maybe two, yes.
So I have a question.
One, don't be upset.
For you guys.
Sure.
How did you guys start Catfish Nation, and what's the history between the two of you?
Panfish Nation or Catfish Weekly started.
Weekly, yep.
A bunch of us got together, and Paul Ragsdale called me up one day and he says, "Hey, I want you to do a show with me," and it was recorded. And we got done with this. He wanted to ask me about building rods. He said, "How'd you think it went?" I said, "I think it was fun. It was really good." He said, "What do you think it'd take to make it better?" I said, "If you could make it go live, while people could watch us while we was doing this." Now this was 9 years ago.
Okay.
And he called me up a few days later. He says, "I think I got it. Google Hangouts offers that option. It's the pain in the ass to set up,
right?
But we can make it work." So the next week we done a live show, and it ended up being three of us involved in it. And I ended up buying the other guys out.
Yeah.
One of them had health problems, and the other guy and I just didn't agree with the way the show should go. And that's how we got started with that. And then years later, I was talking to James Dockery, and I said, I think that the industry is ready for a panfish show like we do Catfish Weekly. And he says, "I think it is too." And I said, "Well, I'll think about this. And went on about 6 months. And he said, you need to get a hold of Mark and get him as a co-host and start this up. I said, you're fooling. He said, you're fooling around and it's not getting going. And I said, I'm an old man. I'm not in a hurry to do anything. And so we picked a date into January 3 years ago, and I had contacted Mark, and he agreed to help me with this project. And
That's awesome.
he
That's a great
does
story.
all the thumbnails, and they are amazing, and helps me do the show. And we get along really well, so that makes it.
I can see that you guys have a
Yeah.
good rapport.
I just come on here to hang out with my buddy. That's about it.
There you go.
But we do have a lot of fun. And we visit offline.
Yep.
Just the two of us a lot of times, and we also have some group stuff where a bunch of us get in there and yak yak yak. We look like a bunch of old women in there, but it's fun. We
It is
enjoy it,
fun.
and
Yeah.
that's what we do.
That's great.
Yeah, and it keeps us out of trouble.
Well,
Me,
sometimes.
I got involved in all of this kind of like on a here, hold my beer. Somebody dared me, I wouldn't do it, and
Yeah.
I ended up.
That's how I joined the
starting-
army.
Yeah, I ended up starting a YouTube channel, and I got interviewed on one show, and then I got talked into helping that guy on that show without being able to say no, and it kind of just went from there. I caught a big old flathead. Lyle had me on Catfish Weekly, and for that show, and then I kind of stepped in and did the co-host for a while he was having some surgery done, and here we are 3
Well,
years
there you
later.
go.
It's just
Have you ever met each other in person, or
Oh,
is
yeah.
it all virtual? Okay, that's good. That's good.
We haven't fished together, but that's because he won't drive to Missouri. It's too
Oh, is
far.
that-
He won't drive up here. He won't let me put him on some real flatheads up here.
There you go. Well, hey, if I ever make it to either of your neck of the woods, probably you, Lyle's closer because I still have family and friends in Jonesboro. Put me on some catfish. I'm
Hey,
coming
you
to
know,
see
there's
you.
some
world-class fishing just north of me, and further north you go, the better it gets. So
I
whenever
would
you're
love
ready
it.
and you're headed this way, you stop and pick me up. We'll go fishing.
I would love to.
I am within an hour from Lake Ozarks, Truman Lake, Palm de Terre, and Stockton.
Wow.
4 great lakes to catch a lot of
Great.
fish in, and
Yep.
if that don't suit you, we can always go to the Missouri or the Mississippi.
I'm the lowest maintenance woman, probably that you'll ever. I don't care where we go. As long as I've got a line in the water, we're good.
Well, these lakes around here are full of catfish, and I help the Missouri Department of Conservation get the regulations on where they have an under amount, a slot limit, and an over, and you can keep 10 unders. And these lakes are so full of catfish that they want you to keep them because they want to get the smaller ones
Yeah,
out so that they
sure.
can grow to be bigger ones. So they're happy if you take limits of fish out whenever you go fishing. So, yeah, you come up, we'll make sure we get it together, and we'll have a great time.
I would love to.
Yep. All right. Well, Jennifer, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show with us tonight. It's been an absolute blast. We're getting ready.
Likewise, it's been my pleasure.
Well, we've been going almost an hour, and we'll get ready to shut it out here in a minute. But hang on, don't close out.
I will.
I would like to offer you to come back on the show sometime because I think that there's a lot of stuff that we haven't covered probably.
I think this is a really good introduction. I've enjoyed getting to know you guys a lot. I would love to show you the studio and kind of have that as a background, and whenever at your leisure. If you guys ask me to come back, I will.
I might steal you for my channel too. So
okay.
I figure I'd say that so Lyle wouldn't get too butthurt when you showed up on my channel on one Monday night. So
that sounds great.
But I would like to get you back on here. Maybe, if you want to do it from your studio, we sit here. I don't know what time that works out for you. We've got an hour drive to get home. But
you know what we do, Jennifer, over the winter, something to keep in mind. We sit around on a Saturday night and tie jigs live on this channel. Maybe if you're interested, maybe you could paint a bait one of these weeks if you got a little spare time.
That actually sounds like fun. You guys do jigs or tie flies, and I'll paint a bait, and we'll do it all live. That sounds like
sounds like a plan. We have had some of the greatest fly tiers in the industry tie flies with us on Saturday nights. There's
sounds
several of them. You
I,
know,
I had an award-winning world champion tell me I was doing it wrong. So there you go. That was the highlight of my jig
there's
tying
always that
career.
one person.
but
Well, hey, he was honest with me, so I know Kim likes
good,
me. So
that's
that's all
good.
that matters.
Kim's a great guy, and he is a world class fly tyer.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
I mean, he's won everything there is to win pretty much in the fly tying industry. And he's been on our show several times and does amazing work. And there's others. It's not just
Oh
Kim,
yeah.
but you know, we try to put out the best content we can with the most interesting people. And in my mind, you fit that bill. It was a great show.
I've had a blast tonight, you guys. I really
Well, I'm
have.
glad. Joe Buck says, awesome show tonight. Well, I'm glad you guys
Thanks,
liked
Joe.
it. Jennifer, thank you so much. Mark, you have any closing statements?
I want to just say thank you. I had a lot of fun talking with you, Jennifer. I appreciate you coming on here and spending your time with us. Other than that, I want to wish everybody, obviously, a happy Memorial Day weekend. Be careful. It's amateur out there on the water.
Yeah.
We got a preview of that on the bait shop tonight, Lyle.
Yes, we did. Amateur.
Wear your life jackets.
Freddie and Chad. How many fish they catch tonight, Mark?
I don't know, man. When I left, there was 0.
We'll find out here in a little bit. I'm quite sure.
I'm feeling bad for Freddie and Chad. I'm feeling really bad for them.
Trust me, they would do it to us.
They would do it.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I promise you that. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. Just remember, Catfish Weekly Monday night at 7 o'clock, followed by the Catfish and Crappie podcast, and then we'll be here after the bait shop next Thursday night. So be sure to tune in. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you then.
See you guys.